we had a significant trade to announce yesterday. We wanted to get the time to speak with you here today. What I'd like to do is just back up everybody a little bit and give you a little bit of time frame or sort of a timeline of what's taken place here in the last little while. And then we'll be certainly open for any questions. Go back to last weekend. I believe it was Saturday or Sunday. I had a conversation with Craig Oster, who is from Newport Sport, who represents Matthew. And I had an additional call with Matthew. At that time, they informed me that Matthew did not have an appetite and would not sign with our team, with the Calgary Flames long term. He outlined the reasons for this. Very much enjoys his time here. I'll let him speak towards that, but ultimately made the decision and informed us that being a Calgary Flame long term was not in his plans. At that particular time, Craig and I worked through a process over the next 24 hours to try to facilitate a trade and try to do that in an expedited fashion. We then took the step on Monday of filing for salary arbitration, and that for that process, there's been a lot of inaccurate reporting. That process really was to extend the time period for us to make a deal with Matthew. If you look back at deals of this significance over the recent past, there's been anywhere from a year to 7 months to complete a transaction of this manner. We tried to do something in a very short period of time. The filing allowed us to move the time period from taking his qualifier on Friday to a to be determined date of a salary arbitration. We then had a list of teams that Craig had provided to us through Matthew that he would be open to at that particular time signing a long-term contract. Obviously, I think everybody understands the challenges of trading a player on a one-year contract, to maximize return. Teams that would like to get Matthew signed to a longer-term contract. We were given a limited group of teams to deal with. And in some ways, Matthew, whether he chose to sign with a particular team, could have put us in a more difficult situation. For instance, if we were only allowed one team to deal with. I appreciate both Matthew and Craig's willingness to work with us, and that's what we got on. So we got underway of that process on Monday. Spoke with teams. Worked this process as best we possibly could. Early on in the process, when we had an opportunity, or we felt we had an opportunity to look at the types of players and the impact players that we were able to get a deal done with, which was Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, Cole Schwint, and the future pick. That became clearly a path we tried to go down there early in the process. So that's really a synopsis of the last week. A couple of things I would close on before opening up to questions. I want to thank Matthew. I've got a strong relationship with Matthew. We drafted him as an 18-year-old player. We saw him grow up in this organization. He's been a special guy to this organization. He made a decision to move on. I appreciate his honesty, and I appreciate him coming to that decision. A week ago, this was not the plan that we had. We were not looking to move Matthew Tkachuk, but we also were put in a situation we had to do the very best thing we could for the organization. He chose the path to go down, and we had to facilitate that as best we possibly could. A lot has been written and talked about and discussed over the last week about Calgary, and quite frankly, I think the city and us as an organization have taken some body shots. Quite frankly, it pisses me off. This is a wonderful community. I think anybody that lives here is is privileged to live in a wonderful community. We've got a team that is, I thought, was a top team in the league, a team that's competing every year to be a Stanley Cup champion, and we're going to continue to do that. So people have the right to choose and pick where they may or want to go or may not want to go. But as a community, as an organization, we do not have to apologize for anything. We're proud of who we are. We're proud of the community that we work and live in, and the people that work here and play here are tremendously proud to be living here and working for and playing for the organization. So I just want to state that those are things that we're proud of, and I don't think, and we will never apologize for the community that we're in. So with that, fire away with any questions that you have.
Okay, we'll start here with Eric Francis. Eric Francis, go ahead.
Brad, you've been kind of in the center of this storm over the last 2 weeks, 4 weeks. What has that time frame been like for you?
Well, and I apologize, I don't read a lot of the stuff that's going on. As I always say, Pete keeps me apprised of it. It's probably been more of a storm written about than actually dealing with it. You deal with issues as they come up. We've dealt with a couple of issues. Players have made choices. They've got every right to make those choices. We deal with them as they come up. So again, you can crawl over into the corner, Eric, in the fetal position and suck your thumb, or you can deal with it. And what we've tried to do is deal with it. And that's what we do. We're not the first team to deal with issues. We're not the last one to deal with issues. We're going to deal with it. That's part of the job. It has been challenging, I would say, in terms of the circumstances. But you deal with the hand that you're dealt, and you just do the very, very best you can. And that's what we've tried to do throughout this process.
What does this trade accomplish for you guys?
Excuse me, sorry?
What does this trade accomplish for you?
What does it accomplish for us? I think we've got an elite player that we've returned in Huberdeau, second in the league in scoring. He's been a top player throughout his career in the league. I think he's one of the premier forwards in the league. Not only what he does, the ability to make other players around him better. He's dynamic. He's competitive. We added a premier forward to our team. We've added Mackenzie Weegar, who many people may not know. Mackenzie Weegar, this player we believe is a top pairing defenseman. To me, he's just starting he's just really at the prime of his career. Was a right shot defenseman, played on the left side last year, the last 2 years primarily in the top pair for the President's Cup champions last year. We think this guy makes our team a lot better today. We like the player that we got in Cole Schwint, and like I said, we think he's a really good young prospect, and we've got a future pick. So that's what it does for us today. We're certainly aware of the circumstances around both players contractually. We're going to be speaking with their agents. I have already at the time that this trade took place. But a lot's happened in the last 24 hours. Going to let everybody take a deep breath, and we'll continue to move forward here.
We'll squeeze one more. Just, have you had any preliminary, you indicated you've talked to the agents, any preliminary indication that the players and or the agents are suggesting, yeah, our clients are both open to potentially signing here long-term?
Well, Eric, I think we've dealt with each other long enough. I'm probably not going to get into contractual discussions with you. We'll keep that between us. It's early. Like, this is not 24 hours old. Let's let everybody take a deep breath, and we'll get after that at the appropriate time.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, we'll go to Cami Kepke. Cami, go ahead.
Hey, Brad, thanks for doing this. So from an outside perspective, the move kind of seems to say that you want to be competitive now. What went into the decision to go for impact players rather than trying to go all in on futures?
Well, first of all, Cami, it's the objective of any deal is to secure the best. I hate referring to players as assets, but to secure the very best possible deal you can. We feel that this is by a long shot, the very, very best deal that was available to us. So again, speculation in the media was incorrect in terms of the number of teams, the teams themselves. So it's hard to say, okay, what were the different deals? I'm not going to get into that. This, to me, it wasn't close in terms of what was available to us in the marketplace. And as I said, once obviously you talk about Jonathan and Mackenzie, once those names became, things that we thought were real, we pursued that path. And we think it just gives us the best return on dealing a player of Matthew's stature, and, dealing a 24-year-old player like Matthew. We didn't choose this path, but we felt, at the end of the day, we were able to deal with it the best possible way, given the circumstances.
You touched on it a little bit there, but when you have a player of Tkachuk's caliber looking for a change of scenery, that the hockey world knows it, that he's looking to move out. You don't often see a fantastic return historically. Were you kind of wary of that history or that pattern going into this last week?
Well, it's not so much the history of the pattern. Today's world, it's hard to do any business quietly, quite frankly. And a lot of times it gums everything up because I said there's lots of inaccuracies out there. It's a lot. I know, the media has their job to do to, follow the stories. I get it. The problem is a lot of it is inaccurate, and it gums things up. The difficulty wasn't so much of what's happened in the past, Cammy. It's always leveraging factors, right? It's, Matthew's situation here. You move a player, everybody can say, well, look what the return for this player is. Very few people actually do the research to say, okay, what's the leverage positions in each situation? Matthew is a player, excuse me, who doesn't have a contract, becomes a UFA in a year, and can dictate a lot of it. If you're a team out there and you say, listen, I'm interested in Matthew Tkachuk, but that he's not interested in contracting with you past this year, that's probably going to change what you're willing to put into a package for him. So there was the challenge of saying, okay, how do we maximize the best return we can without getting squeezed, in a certain area. And I give a lot of credit, as I said, to Craig and to Matthew himself. They certainly were upfront to say, this is our choice. It was a hard conversation when you learn that, this is the path you got to go down, but then you have to quickly move into a mode of saying, how do we both work together? And they certainly, Craig and I spoke several times a day throughout this process. And, it was through cooperation, I think, that we were able to, get the return we did.
Okay, we'll go to Ryan Leslie. Ryan, go ahead.
Tree, I'm just wondering if you've heard from some of your, to lose two players like Gaudreau and Tkachuk in the time span you did. I just wonder what feedback you're hearing from your team, your players, and just the response and the reaction that they would have, knowing that you've added a couple of key significant pieces given the challenges.
Well, certainly you talk to some of the players. At the end of the day, players are competitive. They want to win. They understand if players don't want to be here, that's their choice. And so you have to deal with it. Certainly we got a lot of text messages last night from guys that were excited about the people that are coming in, the backgrounds, their abilities, how they can help our team. So certainly our group was excited. They've reached out to both the players last night, got them in, we've got a special group that way. It's a tight knit group. All three of the players were brought into the group chat, and the guys have reached out and the communication's already started. So our guys were pretty excited last night.
Okay, we'll go to Derek Wills. Derek, go ahead.
Johnny and Jonathan play the same position, had the same number of points last year, finishing tied for second in the Art Ross Trophy race. but how would you describe some of the similarities between the players and some of the differences between the two?
Well, I think they're a little bit different. I mean, they're both tremendous distributors of the puck. I think they both have, great skill. You look at it, they make those around them better in terms of their vision, their ability to transport the puck through the neutral zone. So I think there is a lot of similarities, Derek, in terms of their game. Certainly there's some differences, in terms of their size. Jonathan kills penalties, and really took on a bigger role of doing that last year and was successful at it. But there's at the end of the day, you're talking about two very, very high end players. They're tied for the second in the league in points. That's a rarity. They're both special players.
Okay, I see Chris's iPhone has his hand up. Not sure who that is. So Chris, you can go ahead.
Hey, it's Chris App from CTV. Sorry about that. Brad, I'm curious, are you going to be gun shy about acquiring American players ever again, whether it's in a trade or developing them through the draft?
No. I mean, listen, you do your homework on every player. You've got to be conscious of all sorts of factors from every player. But to say now that all of a sudden, because we've gone through a situation here, that we have to steer clear of a certain type of player, no, we will continue to do our homework and make the best selections we can and make the best choices we can, and ultimately bring in players here that we think, number one, can help us be successful, help us win, and players that want to be here.
Okay, we'll take a few. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
If I may follow, I wonder if there's a frustration, because this has always been a sense in Canada that the teams feel almost like development leagues for the American teams for when players are better. And you take guys like Tkachuk and Gaudreau, as you said, you watch Tkachuk grow in this organization and they've moved on. Is that not a constant frustration for GMs in a Canadian market?
Well, it's easy to just paint, a big swath over all the players. At the end of the day, to me, this is players have the ability to make decisions and have rights at certain points in their careers when their contracts reach a certain point. So I don't think we necessarily need to condemn every American player here. We had two players whose contracts were up, made decisions. We knew the challenges. Potentially presenting us as those players got to the end of their contracts. We made strong cases for both of them to be here. Listen, they've made decisions to move on. We got to move on. So we are excited about the ability to add the players that we did yesterday, and we move forward.
Okay, we'll take a few more questions here, starting with Danny Austin. Danny, go ahead.
Thank you. Brad, when you reflect on this process of trying to get Johnny and Matthew to re-sign here in Calgary, I know you said it's not the organization, there's nothing to apologize for, but is there anything that you feel that the Flames organization can do better to ensure that top talent does want to stay here long term?
Yeah, I mean, you always reflect. I mean, again, a lot of the narrative out there is incorrect. I mean, we tried to sign Johnny last year. Johnny's moved on. We're not going to get into that. We tried to sign Johnny last year. We made a decision at that particular time based upon the conversations that we were having that they were legitimately interested in being here. And we tried to follow through on that process. We made the decision to sign Matthew to the contract we did at the time we did, knowing what his rights were going to be at the end of it. So at the end of the day, players make decisions. You always reflect back on how you go through a process. I feel very, very comfortable that the ownership of this organization, the management team here, did everything possible to have these players sign and stay. They chose they didn't want to. Not a lot you can do about that. So we move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go Ryan Pike, and then we'll finish with Peter Labardius. Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, Brad, I got two for you, if you don't mind. First of all, I know there's been a decent amount of turnover from your club from last year, but how do you feel about the guys you brought in so far, and how do you feel your team, I guess, shapes up so far at this point in the summer?
Well, I mean, like I said, we've made a significant deal last night. We're not 24 excuse me, not 24 hours removed from it. We're excited about the players, as I said earlier, that we brought in. We're still working away at it. So, you know, we've brought some people back. We look at Nikita and Trevor. We added brought back Trevor Lewis. We added Rooney. We've added some defensemen that we think have potentially some upside here. We're still working at it. We had Jonathan McKenzie last night. We like the people that we've added. We continue to work away in the middle of July, third week of July, to work towards October and training camp.
And I know you probably want to keep them, you know, a lot of what you and Matthew spoke about private, but, you know, broadly speaking, did you get any indication from him that his decision to explore a long-term future elsewhere had anything to do with Johnny Gaudreau's decision to explore free agency?
No, it had nothing to do with it. Johnny's decision, Matthew's decision was not tied to Johnny's in any way whatsoever.
Okay, we'll end with Peter Labardius here. Peter, go ahead.
Hi, Brad. I'll try to be as quick as I can. How important was it for you this summer, even before these two cards that you were dealt, to solidify your top four, and having Weegar to not only do that, but to give you more power play options? How good does that make the fit for your team?
Well, you're right, Pete. And I mean, like I said, we look at him as a top end defenseman, one of the top defensemen in the league. Quite frankly, he's underrated. He touches a lot of part of the game. You know, ultimately this will come down to where Darryl slots him. Obviously, we had lots of conversation over the last week of where he potentially could slot in our team. He's a right shot that played the left side, which is a little bit unique. You don't see that a lot, but that's really where he played. You know, he played with Ekblad the last 2 years. So there is some natural combinations you can look at. His ability to close plays, his ability to kill plays, not only in the defensive zone, but the ability to do so through the neutral ice, the ability to transition the puck, the ability to get it going north to south, and like I said, the ability to close plays and get it going the other way is at one of the highest rates in the league. So his ability to deny zone entries, we think we've made our defense a significantly stronger defense. Now, where all the pieces fit, and we're still, like I said, in the third week of July, we'll keep working at it. But certainly when that name became reality and how he would fit among the group that we have now, it makes it for some exciting possibilities.
And my last one for you, Brad, is how underrated might the Schwint part of this deal be as a top prospect and a right-handed center with some size that has a very good pedigree of winning faceoffs?
Yeah, he's a guy. I mean, as you go through, as everybody knows, you've listed out and you've gridded all the team's prospects, and you know, this is a guy when we talk about our scouts really like this guy, Steve Plow, who handles a lot of the stuff in the East and saw Charlotte a lot. I mean, he's a guy we've talked about for a while. We've talked to our amateur guys going back to his time in Mississauga. Big, long, rangy centerman. We think he's got a chance to be, at the end of the day, we think he can play in your middle six. We think he could be a real good in the 3-hole, is when you look at it, his ability to kill penalties, his ability to win faceoffs, a high character kid. You know, this goes, you know, back to his days in the OHL. So he was a part of it. Like, as you go through these pieces, and as I told Cole today, there might be some sexier names that the public knows in this deal more than yours, but you were part of this. You know, this deal was getting you a part of this, was part of the deal, and something we needed to happen. So we're excited to get Cole Schwint.